Welcome to the podcast, Joel. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you taking the time out. So today's guest, Joel, he started off in the music industry. He hit the sales game, even went and worked on the desert before starting his own brand, Addicted to Success, which I think 99% of the population now knows. So now you're traveling the world, speaking on stages. You've got your own online course, helping millions of others now to fulfill their vision and to fulfill the latent talents that they have inside them, to help them bring it out and make the most of that. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today, man. Appreciate your time.
Paul, thanks a million for having me, mate. I really appreciate it. You and I have had a number of conversations, and I love where your head is at. I love that you are striving to impact millions worldwide too. And if there's anything that you need, let me know. I just appreciate you giving me the platform here today to be able to speak to your audience. So thank you.
No, anytime, man. I'm grateful that we could connect. So I think for those, just to give a bit of a background, for those who haven't come across your content or any of your things just yet, just give a bit of a background in terms of how you actually got started to where you are now, and how you actually came up with the name Addicted to Success.
Yeah, it was a moment in time where I was sitting in a room in Perth, Western Australia. I was working for a company called Amcom, doing sales for corporate and small businesses when it comes to telecommunication sales, fiber optic internet connections and so on. And so I was in the whole, get in on the sales floor and hit your targets and, buy, sell. And really, that environment was a great environment for me to really grow into when it came to staying disciplined, being persistent, growing thick skin, like rhino. They call it rhino skin in the industry, where you get the 10 no's or 20 no's before you get a yes. So it taught me a lot. When I was in this workshop with the company, there's a speaker by the name of Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. Not Leonardo DiCaprio, but the original Wolf of Wall Street, right? He came in and he had trained us that day on how to increase our sales, how to close over the phone, and how to open up conversation and so on, right? And it was a great session, and there were a number of things that were mentioned in that session. And he challenged me to cast my 10-year vision that day. And I had never thought of my success or the possibilities that were possible, right? The opportunities that were possible in my life. I didn't see them because I was so caught up in like what I had to do just now or this week or this month. And when he really challenged me to cast a 10-year vision, it was exciting. Like to think in this way for once, to think 10 years ahead with no limits, like what would the ultimate version of myself be like, and to reverse engineer it. What you do in your 10th year, your 9th year to get to your 10th, your 8th to get to your 9th, your 7th to get to your 8th, and so on, all the way back to this present day. And he just shifted a lot of my perspective when it came to what was possible. He asked a number of questions like, what are you good at? What do you love? And what solution will you bring to the world? And he mentioned a few things like, you are not your past, you are the lessons and resources you've gleaned from it. And I remember holding myself back so much because I had experienced things in life that I'd say like a positive, inspirational person wouldn't be preaching about from stage. And so I was limiting myself and had these stories running of like, well, I can't do that because I'm this type of person. I was so stuck in the old identity of who I was, as opposed to recreating a new identity of what I could be. And that day I decided I found my top 3 values, which was business, self-development, and contribution. And I tied them in with a business idea. And the idea was that I loved self-development at the time. Okay, I was reading a lot of like your Tony Robbins book, T. Harv Eker, Les Brown, Stephen Covey. I was knee deep in all the self-development, right? I was also pretty good with marketing and computers and networking with other people because I learned those skills from the music industry and even before that in radio. And what I loved was I loved sharing new knowledge with people. It just lit me up to share things that I'd learned. And so I combined the three together to create a hub online where I would share content about inspirational steps, inspirational pieces, inspirational stories for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, to really chase their dreams, right? And I didn't have a name in that first hour, but as I was writing more and more out, I started writing down things that I found were appealing to me when it came to achieving. And I wrote down relentless pursuit, never giving up, like kind of like the cliche, like everyday kind of things.
Yeah.
But really what I found within that was like this, I call it kind of like this addiction to achieving something, like not giving up, just going in. And, addicted to success, the name was birthed that day. And that's when I went home, man. And I remember actually Jordan got me to stand up and to declare my 10-year vision in front of the room, which was so powerful. I remember with the CEO of the company who invited me to be at the workshop was sitting there. And I remember looking out at him as I was reading out my 10-year vision and saying, I'll be speaking on stages and I'll be blah, 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 and saying all these things that I'll be doing with Addicted to Success, which had nothing to do with the sales company I was working for. And so you could just kind of see, it was funny just kind of seeing people's heads turn a little bit like that in the room, and they're all just kind of like looking at each other. And I think the idea was like 10 years from now, but still being in the same company, but what would you be doing with your position?
Of course.
And I totally just was like, nah, I'm out of here. By 10 years time, I'll be out of here. And what's really funny actually is that the CEO of that company actually reached out to me about 6 months back and just said, I don't know if you remember who I am. And I, of course I do. But he's like, hey, I just wanted to say, like, I really respect you and I admire that you've gone out there and you've really followed your dreams. And it was really awesome to see that. And it just shows you that, like, sometimes we think things are so far away. Right? Even when I ask people to map out a 10-year vision, like they're like, 10 years and like they can't think that far ahead. They're trying. And it honestly, when I tell you this, like it'll blow your mind. Like I remember writing down, we'll reach 10 million views in 10 years when Addicted to Success. That was what I wrote down on my original 10-year vision that day with Jordan Belfort. We're 7 years down the line and we've reached 138 million views worldwide.
Wow. Yeah.
I wrote down that I wanted to speak on stage with people like Jack Canfield and Tony Robbins. And what's interesting is that, like, I've been asked to speak at events with them, but not only that, I've interviewed Tony Robbins. I've interviewed Jack Canfield. I'm in a movie with Jack Canfield and I'm in another movie with Tony Robbins, and so it's crazy how, like, when you start really being intentional about what you want in your life, you start moving in the directions that you need to go in. Yeah. Otherwise, you're like a pinball bouncing in a pinball machine, just bouncing around, and you're not going in any like linear direction. You're just kind of being scattered around in life, and you're only going to get 20% away into what you want in 10 years from now, rather than getting 80, 90, 100%. And when you're more, it's crazy. Like our mindset continues to expand. The more we learn, the more breakthroughs we have, the more experiences we gain. We and even our network, when our network increases, they always say your network determines your net worth. It's so true. Like I've had way more opportunities now because I have a bigger network of people that also understand what my vision is. And when you can clearly convey what your vision is to the world, the right people start showing up to support you in that. And you also get to support them too, because you inspire them to convey their vision in a way that's powerful as well. So the vision is so damn powerful, man. I can't stress how much of a game changer it is.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's an amazing story, and one I know that you've told quite a lot in the interviews and the many podcasts that you've done. But it never gets old, because it's like it's this journey of this young individual who's like hungry for success, and then you start off with humble beginnings, and now you've ended up where you are now. So the story of going from where you are to where you are now, never gets old, regardless of whichever success story it is, whether it's you, Tony Robbins, or any of the other hundreds of millions of successful people that are out there. Just goes to show, like, any human being can do it. It just takes a bit of intention, courage, and persistence. But
yeah,
all
the unsexy, uncool stuff that most people aren't willing to do.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, on that note though, like, a lot of that's not spoken about is the struggles that you faced along the way. So like, I think in some of the interviews that I've watched, I might not have watched all of yours, but the ones I have watched, I haven't heard anyone ask you in terms of the struggles that you faced. So like, I don't mean the general, like, oh, it was difficult, it took years, but I mean, like, try and recall some moments that you can pull back to give the audience, like, of stuff that you really felt was difficult, even if it's basic stuff like, oh, I didn't know how to set up a website, like, I had to Google that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Show that you started off the same way that anyone else right now that's struggling started off.
Well, yeah, I love this question, man, and thank you so much for asking. Most people, you're right, they don't, and this is where you can learn the biggest lessons is from the struggles and the breakthroughs. I mean, I've had many struggles, definitely. I've had things show up in my personal life. I've had things show up in my romantic relationship life that have thrown me curveballs. I've had technical issues with the website. I've had moments where I've sat on the fence and not known where to go. So anyway, I'll share a few because I think that, like, it just kind of paints a picture of, like, what the journey is like. And I think that people think, like, okay, cool, you mapped out your 10-year vision. Now you just follow step by step where you're going and everything's all good. No, definitely not. There are quite a few course corrects that will come into play. And sometimes your 10-year vision changes a bit and you need to tweak it, right? Also, the things that you think that you want so much, you go for it. And then you realize, like, as you mature with your mindset and you start connecting more dots, you realize that thing that you wanted for, like, years wasn't really quite what you thought it was. Now you found something else. And usually you find the even bigger and better things along the way. They have to surprise you. They have to take you by surprise. It's like this miracle that shows up. So I always say, like, always sprinkle a little bit of faith on your vision, because you need it. We don't always 100% know our destiny. We can get close to mapping it out and being intentional, but we don't 100% know what it's going to look like in 10 years, right down to the T. But it's exciting to be intentional, because you get more out of life. But what I would say is that, like, I had this thing where I was in a relationship, right? And in that first year that I casted the 10-year vision and created Addicted to Success, I was in the first year of a relationship with someone. And we were together for 5 years. We got married. 4 months later, I found out that she was having an affair. And it's crazy because, I mean, it's crazy because I developed this whole, I guess, identity, this character of, I'm Mr. Success because I have this successful relationship. I have the successful business. I have the successful, podcast and all these things. It was like, that was my whole identity. And then when that happened, it shook me to my core, because it challenged my identity of this is who I am. And it was crazy. I had to go through this process of, like, this realization of, oh, this isn't me. This is what happened for me, not to me, but happened for me. Yeah. And this isn't what I actually thought it was. Now I need to pivot, right? I need a new game plan. And I spent quite a few months just recreating myself, reinventing myself without my ex-partner, and I think that, some people come to me sometimes. It's funny because I never used to have people come to me and ask me about, like, what would your advice be if your partner was cheating on you, or if your partner left you, and all these kind of questions. I never had that. But months after, and I got back in the game and I was going back into coaching and speaking, tons of people started showing up that were saying, hey, like, I'm having this problem right now. My partner just cheated on me. I don't know what to do. But it's just wild and uncanny how that starts coming into your life.
Yeah.
And because I have been through it, I can say, I totally feel your pain. They're like, wow, really? And I'm like, yeah, I have. I've been there before. So that was a big thing that really shaped me as an individual. And we can talk about all the things like what I have and what achievements I have been blessed with, but really it's about who you've become in the process. And I
Yeah,
remember when I went through that, my mom said to me, she said, "Joel, you really handled it like a gentleman. You know, you didn't go out there and throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. You weren't, you know," and she said, "Your true character rises when you're facing the storm." And it
yeah,
was such a profound statement that made me realize, like, it's not even just within relationship, it's everything. It's conflict. Like every time you have conflict within your business, if you know, some people in business get sued, you know, and it can destroy their families and their lives. And something dramatic could happen to you, you know, and an accident or a plane crash or anything, right? And then the question is like, what do you do next? What do I do with this, and what do I do next,
yeah, yeah,
right? Instead of like, oh, poor me. And so I've had a lot of those moments. I call them like life shapers, where really, you know, I've had moments where I've had someone come to me and offer me $1 million for Addicted to Success in the first 2 years, and $1.2 million. And then someone come and want to go on a 50-50 with me and give me $1 million, but then go into this non-exclusive, an exclusive non-compete contract where if I sold Addicted to Success off, that I couldn't go and recreate anything like that for quite a few years, right? And so I was in this moment where I was like, should I take the deal? Should I take the deal? And I was thinking, oh, 1.2 million. And I was going through this tug of war in my mind. And what it came down to, the deciding factor was that I realized that I did not map this out in my 10-year vision. It wasn't part of my 10-year vision. But the thing is, I could have sold it and I could have retweaked my 10-year vision, but it was such a big part of my 10-year vision that all the things that I saw coming in the next 6 years, 8 years, like the speaking on stage, the writing the book and launching the book and having the program, inspiring me, that like wasn't part of it. And I knew that I needed Addicted to Success for that. And I knew that I was just getting started with Addicted to Success. And I knew that we could impact more worldwide if I committed to this. So sometimes you have these like little shiny objects come in to distract you from your dreams and your vision. And what I tell a lot of people is, even though you're doing something that might feel good, it doesn't mean it's the right thing.
yeah, yeah.
I think a lot, you can get distracted with what feels good or what looks good on the surface, but it might be the thing that's taking you away from your purpose. Right. And so your vision really gives you a mission in life. I think a lot of people want a mission. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm excited. I jump out of bed. You know, for this interview, I was like, all right, we've got to make this work. You know, the internet was down. I was telling you, like, all right, we're going to make this work, man. I don't care. Let's get a connection going. Let's find a way to make this work. Like, I love jumping on and sharing this advice and connecting with people and connecting with you. And so there is no excuse when it comes to your mission. And I posted this picture quote a few weeks back, and it's just gone like viral over the internet. And it says, I'm not talented. I'm just crazy in love with my mission.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because so many people, like when they see it, they go and follow me and they reshare it and they retweet it. And it's like, they keep sharing it. Right. And I think they share it not because like, oh yeah, it's Joel Brown or anything like that. They share it because they're like, damn, that guy is speaking real truth. You know, right? I'm lowering myself to level. I'm not wanting to put myself on a pedestal with that. It's going, I'm just like you. I'm not talented. I'm just really, really, really in love with the mission that's at hand. And I have a vision and I have intention and I'm disciplined with this because I know that this matters. And this gives my life meaning, but in return, I can also give you value. And I think people see that and they're like, damn, that's what I want. Either they vibe with it because they have it already, or that's what they want. I think everyone wants a mission in life, and your vision will help you on your mission.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. So I think it's important that you shared that, and I'm glad you did, because sometimes it takes courage, man. Like if you've got, like, I'm not there yet, but for you, I can imagine having an image, having quote unquote celebrity status, to share your struggles, it almost demystifies that whole image in split seconds. It's like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with me, you know, like walking around for people.
Dude, I'm just like you. I'm just like everyone else, man. Honestly,
exactly.
I'm blessed by the grace of God, man, to to have the abilities that I have acquired over time. And everything's acquired, man. It's all acquired. You got to learn it. You got to learn your skills. You got to work on your belief systems. You need to stick to your habits. It all requires effort. Now, you can love something and just love, 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 but it also requires effort, right? So when I say I'm crazy in love with my mission, the love part, I'm crazy in love with it. I'm passionate about it. But being crazy in love with that thing means you also give it the effort that's required.
Yeah.
So don't miss that part. You can't just love it. You have to put the effort into.
Yeah. Of course. No, nothing happens. You know, as they say, the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. You know that quote.
There you go.
Yeah, it's cliche, but it's true. Like, you know, you have to work for it, even though, you know, you can dream all you want, have the vision written there, that will give you the direction, but then you've got to work behind it to actually make it happen. So yeah, man, like, nowadays then, what sort of things are you sort of feeding your mind, or what books are you reading, or material that you're consuming on a day-to-day basis that you think will help other people along the way as well?
So I'm writing my book right now. Right, my book's all about vision. It's about leadership and vision. And someone asked me actually on a Facebook Live, a mastermind group that I was in the other day. They're like, "Can you tell me what is the top 3 books that I should read?" And they're hungry, which is awesome.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, he's aspiring speaker and coach. He's getting out there. He's getting testimonials. He's doing the work. And he's like, "What are 3 books that I should absolutely read? I want to like level up." And I said, "Dude, I know where you're at. I see where you are. You're progressing. Don't read books. Write a book." He's like, "What?" And I said, when I committed to writing the book, it's crazy. Like, I start seeing inspiration in everything. Your mind starts going into this different state. It's so weird, man. It's like, now that you know that you're writing a book and you got like whatever, it could be 6 chapters, 10 chapters, whatever. When you get to a certain chapter, let's say you're focusing on a topic of inspiration, right? Now, when you're listening to like a podcast, or someone's having a conversation, or you're coaching someone, or you're reading a book, when you see the word inspiration, or you see something that's let's say a story that's inspiring, boom, you're fully absorbing that, because you're like, damn, that could be useful as inspiration for a chapter in my book. So every day you're like this little child in the new universe, like looking around for like things to like pull to put into your art and your craft. And nothing beats having your own system and having your own unique offering for the world. Someone asked me recently, they joined a lot of like mastermind groups to get a lot of coaching. Like, "Joel, I want to coach. I want to, you know, launch a successful program. What do I do?" And it could be like a very vague question, because there's just so much to that. But the advice I gave them was, what you really need to do is you need to work out what your niche is. Find out that area that you really need to focus on. What are you willing to master? Okay, if someone said you need to do this for at least 10 years, a 10-year minimum, what are you willing to master in your life? And then sit down and write, even if it's a mini guide, like a little, like a 10-page or a 20-page guide, which actually would be really useful if you created one, because then you can use it as a lead magnet, right? Or you can give it to people, your coaching clients, or whoever. You can attract people to a page for that and get leads. But creating a mini guide, right? It doesn't have to be a full-blown book. Let's go one step at a time. And then from that guide, what will happen is, a lot of people think, "Oh, I'll write the book because I want the book to be on shelves, or I want the book to be a lead magnet, or I want the book to be some form of offering." I don't even look at it like that. I look at it as, I want to get this book down so that I can be wiser and more experienced in this area and in this topic, in this niche. So this book that I'm writing right now on vision, I'm writing it because it's drawing more out of me, and I'm becoming more of an expert around vision now. So I've already lived it. That's my experience, which is great. And I have the story of like where it started and who inspired me. And then I've, you know, I have students and clients that are getting results from the 10-year vision process. But on top of that, I'm also doing a ton of research. So one of the things I found the other day was there was an interview, and it was kind of a rare interview with Muhammad Ali, and they were asking him about boxing, and he said, "This isn't even about boxing." He said, "I do boxing because my vision is to help the African Americans on the streets, the juveniles that are out there on the streets killing each other, and the prostitutes and the homeless." He's like, "That's why I do boxing." He's like, "My vision all the time is that I want to be the figure that gets the platform to be able to speak to those people." And it's like, boom, because you like when you see someone like Muhammad Ali, you think it's just the boxer, but it's not, man. His vision was way bigger than that. When you see Joel Brown, you see Addicted to Success, right? But it's not even about Addicted to Success. This whole thing, this whole mission is about my vision. It's not even about Addicted to Success. Addicted to Success is a cog in the wheel of the big machine, right? So really understanding, like, when you have that vision for like where you're heading, be intentional about it, but pick your expertise and your topics, your niches, and then create a system, your own unique system for the marketplace, which is truly yours. Okay. It comes from experience. I remember having a conversation with Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins and I were talking about the state of the self-development space, and we're saying, you know, like, look, there's so many people out there that call themselves coaches. They slap like a title on their Twitter or their Facebook or their Instagram. All of a sudden they're like a self-help coach or some guru or expert. And Tony laughed. He said, yeah, he said, Joel, the thing is, you get phonies in every industry. So you got doctors out there that are like, they're outside smoking their lungs out, and then they come in and tell people they can't smoke. And he said, you have these overweight, massive people that eat like crap, and then they go in and they're telling somebody else on the floor what to do, and that person's 10 times fitter than them already. So he said, you're going to have this, right, in every industry. But he said, this is more about the way of life. And he said that the biggest advantage that you'll ever have in life and in business is truth. And the only way you gain truth is through experience. Now, you can't deny the truth, right? When I've experienced something, when I say, you know, I sat in a room with Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, and this happened, you know, I went through my relationship challenges, or I was offered millions of dollars, like, that's all truth. Right? You can't deny that. It actually happened. No one can take that away from me. That happened to me, and that's my experience, and I get to share it. And it may inspire some, and others, maybe they don't care about it, whatever. But it's the truth, and that's because it's come from my experience. So now creating a system, and it could be like some form of like a coaching system, or like a program, or like a guide or a book or something, like a template or a map where you teach people your system. Hey, look, this is how I did it. This is how I broke through. These experiences I've had from this. This is what I've applied. This is what I've tested. You got to test and experiment. You'll be a mad freaking scientist in the lab of life and just experiment, right? But you have that now, and that system, you can call it whatever the hell you want. You can be the four stage, you know, mind domination system, right? Whatever, right? Like, we just make that up, and you market that, you know, and that's your thing, and it's uniquely yours, and it's the things that you've been able to do, and it might not be for absolutely everyone, because you can never win everyone. Don't even try and play that game. But really, when you have your system, that's what people want. People want now, they want something that gets them results, that solves the problems in their life, that moves them from pain to pleasure. Because you don't want to stay, the pain is 2.5 times more powerful than pleasure, right? And they also want something that has an edge to it, that's magnetic, something that's different. My friend Sally Hogshead, she's a famous marketer, female marketer. She's incredible. And she said that it's easier to be different than it is to be better. And when you create that thing that's different rather than better, that's how you win. You stay in your own lane and you commit. And like you said before, the consistency, sticking to the habits and the experience, like all the unsexy, uncool things that take time. They're unsexy and uncool because they take time, but they totally pay off.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. Like, I think a lot of people can just take a lot of nuggets away from everything that you've just said. And I think going back to the whole point about vision, it's like having that there is what attracts you through all of those ups and downs and gets you through the whole issue of having to be persistent, go through the habits and go through the trials and tribulations, man. So regardless of how long it takes, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, having the vision there is what's going to pull you through all the way from start to finish. And it's funny, like, the question started off with me asking you what books or what content you consume, and you switched that on its head instantly by saying, "Oh, I don't, that's not what I'm doing. That's not where my head's at. I'm writing a book." So it's a mindset shift, and it's good because it gets people to think, don't do the typical things. Instead of chasing after the books, like you said, that guy who was looking for the top 3 books to read. Like, people always feel like there's something else they have to do. There's a magic trick that they haven't still done. There's a secret formula they haven't found out about yet. It's like, no, man, just think of it. Think of the situation differently. Look at it from a different perspective, and you might actually just get different results. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Well, it's like this. It's like someone comes to me and goes, "Joel, I've got a gun. Give me the magic bullet." I say, I can give you a bullet, but it's not going to be magic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, exactly, man. So this is more of a question that I was curious about, and I'm sure the listeners are as well. How did you feel, or like, when was the first time you actually stepped on stage? Because I know from what you're saying, that was part of the vision from the beginning, from when you were in sales still and you hadn't left. So when was the first time you were actually invited to step on stage, and how did that actually happen?
Oh, this is awesome. I love this question. Well, I think I shared it a little while back, and it's funny because, like, over time, as I share like my experiences of speaking on stage, more and more things pop up in my memory, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, that's what happened, that's how I felt. My first experience of speaking on stage, I mean, when I was younger, I used to do drama class. I'd speak in front of like a classroom there. But the first time I actually spoke on stage in front of more than, I think it was 300 people. It was 320 people. This is at Mind Valley. Okay, so the company that Vishen Lakhiani started in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, I was invited to come and speak at the Mind Valley headquarters, and they have a stage room there that Vishen has set up. And anyway, I was asked to speak there and share my story of how I created a blog that reaches millions of people. And while I was offered millions of dollars for it and turned it down. So anyway, I went to Kuala Lumpur, but before that, I actually had written out my speech, no lie, probably about 10 times. And I recorded it into my phone. Just remember, this is like 5 years back. Recorded it into my phone on the voice recorder on my iPhone, word by word, and I would listen to it. I'm like here at the gym, I'm like listening to my own voice, like I'm like practicing it, and I'm trying to get into the state of it and visualize it, and like, okay, this line, and don't forget to say that, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I had a slideshow as well. So I had slides, which I don't do now. Like I can kill it without slides now. I don't need slides, but sometimes you need slides to present visually certain things. And anyway, so I had the slideshow and everything all set up, and I was practicing through that. I practiced my speech probably about 100 times, like close to 90 something times. Like, it's crazy. Practice with my partner at the time. How does it sound? Yeah. Maybe like deliver more like this. And I was just going through it so much. I had this whole perfectionism thing going on, right? Anyway, went to Kuala Lumpur. Got to the stage. As for everybody, like, you start feeling maybe an hour before, okay, it's getting serious now. Like, you start meeting some of the people, you see them coming into the room, they see the first person get up and speak, and then my heart starts racing, hands get sweaty. Like, I'm like, I got my speech in my pocket, and I'm reading through it, like the 3 pages, whatever it was. It was a 20-minute speech. I never delivered a 20-minute speech. And anyway, I was like, man, 20 minutes, that's a long time, And so anyway, I got up on stage and I started speaking, a little bit kind of like stuck. I had a mentor at the time. His name was David T.S. Wood. And he taught me this whole kind of like entry thing. He's like, stand up on stage, plant your feet right in the middle, dead silence, just quiet, just stand there for like a few seconds. And that demands attention from the room, right? Yeah. And he said, and you center yourself with your breath, right? And he said, and say this, and he's like, imagine, over the course of the next 20 minutes, if you were able to learn one thing, just one thing that could absolutely change your life, that can impact not only your life, but also your friends and your family and those around you, how would that feel? I want you to say, yeah, if you agree with like that feeling or whatever, something like that. It was along those lines.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, yeah, like, would that feel amazing? I think that was right. Would that feel amazing? People were like, yeah, like, I can't hear you. Would that feel amazing? Yeah. All right. Awesome. So, and then I go into the speech.
Yeah.
When I was 7 years old, I used to sell chocolates down the street to my neighbors. I used to hustle basketball cards and blah, blah, blah. And I went into the whole thing. And my mom gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 13 years old. And that inspired me to be an entrepreneur. And all that. Like, I went through the Michael Jordan story of being inspired by Michael Jordan on Space Jam. And then I wanted to get into the NBA. And I committed and learned about the habits of Michael Jordan at like 7 years old. All these things I shared. But while I was sharing it, I kept leaning, and I saw a recording later. I would lean over and look to the left constantly. I kept looking over at my slide, and it became the crutch, became the thing that I was leaning on so much to not forget. And I was stuttering on words, and I was trying to remember lines, and it was throwing me off. And I had this guy, it was so funny. He was sitting in the front row. He was this Indian guy, and he was sitting there, and he's going, like he was just like shaking his head like this. Yeah. It was like every like maybe few minutes, he'd just be like this while I'm telling the story or I'm sharing something profound. He's just like shaking his head. And I was like, what is this guy's problem? Like he was getting into, I was letting it get to my mind, right? And at the end of the interview, at the end of the speech, I came down and off the stage because they asked me to come down and shake people's hands, and I came down. This dude beelined straight towards me. And I was shaking a few other people's hands, and I was speaking, you know, oh, Joel, that was great. And I love what you've done with Addicted to Success. He comes straight up to me. He goes, Mr. Brown? I said, yes. He goes, I have never, ever, ever heard anything so inspirational in my life. And I was like, like this sigh of relief. I was like, what? And I was like, dude, you were shaking your head. And he goes, I was agreeing. I could not believe it. Like, blah, blah, blah. That was his way. And I was letting him get to my mind. So I was like, there I was trying to remember every single line of my speech. I was using the slideshow as a crutch, and I was like letting someone in the audience get to me. That was it was like, it was terrible. And I just said after that to my partner, I'm not up. I don't think I really am up for public speaking. It's not really my thing. Anyway, Vishen Lakiani comes up to me, says, Joel, we're doing this retreat thing. I want you to speak for 20 minutes and just to share your story. And I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't think much of it. I went to this retreat. I got up, and it was a quieter room, smaller room. I spoke. He was in the audience. He came up to me after. He said, Joel, I want to sign you to a deal. We have this program called Tribe Learn at Mind Valley. We're going to promote you to our list. I love your story, and I think it's really inspirational. And then there we go. And from there, that was like a new, I guess it was like a new connection that I made in my mind of like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And a great opportunity came from it because I got up and spoke, and I got to meet some cool people. So then I started to kind of recondition, okay, maybe there's some things in this with speaking. And I know in my 10-year vision that I see myself, you know, speaking on stages with these people. I need to just push through it. Yeah. And I'm so happy I did. And like now you see me on stage, man, I have no prep, no structure, no like pre-written. I'm like, what's the topic? They tell me I can just get up and fall off the top of the dome. Yeah. And like 20 minutes is like, you need to give me more than 20 minutes. Before the first speech was like, oh no, 20 minutes, how can I do that? Now I'm like, what, 1 hour? Can I have more? Like what? You develop more content over time. You have more experiences you get to share. I always get the heart still races before I get on stage, man. That never goes away. And that just shows me that I'm a real human being, and that this is really a blessing, and that I'm grateful for it. And it keeps me alive, man. When I get that feeling and I get up on stage, I know that what I'm doing is important and it matters. Yeah. And when I speak to each person in the room. When I look around, and if someone's shaking their head doing whatever, I mean, it doesn't really happen. But if someone was even doing this, they were doing like the cut your neck kind of thing, and they were getting all like aggressive. It doesn't matter, man, because I'm there speaking to someone in the room, and it's about them. It's not about me. And I think with perfectionism, when we think about this, it taught me a lot about perfectionism, having to get up and speak. I realized that like, it's not about me. None of this is about me. I'm a vessel of service. You know, I've been blessed with these gifts and these abilities, and the vision is something that I've worked on, which is, you know, yeah, that's me. I got down and I got intentional, but all of the amazing things that come from it aren't from me. You know, I believe that God brought us from non-existence into existence. He doesn't owe us anything. You know, he
Yeah,
brought us into this world, into existence. And I look at that and think, man, what a blessing. The fact that we're here 6 feet above ground, breathing here on earth with like endless possibilities at our fingertips. I'm just happy to be a vessel.
yeah, man. That's it's an amazing story, and I think one that everyone needed to hear, because the whole story of you stuttering on your words, hand sweaty, heart racing. That's all normal stuff. Everyone goes through it as well. So it just makes you seem that much more human. And the thing is,
Part of the game.
you're probably the only one that realized that on that day. Everyone else is too busy listening to your message. You're the only one that's worrying about how you actually looked. Because as you said, perfectionism is a lot of it is egotistical. It's like, oh, how do I look, man? Like, is the lighting right, and all of that stuff. And other people are just like, tell me the damn message. I'm hungry. I want to hear something that's going to change my life. I don't care how you look. Come on your pajamas, man. It doesn't matter. You know, it's like with this podcast. Like before I know I got this webcam now, and like it's slightly better for the people listening on the podcast. I've got a webcam that's slightly better quality now, but all the other ones I did before, the lighting was really dim because I'm sitting in my attic. Like, I haven't got a professional studio, but it doesn't matter. It's the energy on this podcast that people are going to
Yes.
and that's what they're going to remember, you know?
It's always the content, man. I remember pulling out my iPhone. There were a lot of people that were doing this, like getting their DSLR cameras, and they wanted like the big movie cinema style camera, and they were doing it. And that's great. I mean, I've done videos like that too. I did one recently. It was awesome how it came together. But I remember being in the jungle in Bali, Indonesia, and I was like near a waterfall, and I just had this moment of inspiration. I pulled my iPhone. It was like an iPhone 4 at the time. It was an old school iPhone. Pulled it out of my pocket and just shot it. I'm like, hey, and it was so cliche. It was just like, follow your passion, and you need to don't look at the greatness of others and let that belittle you. Find the greatness that lies within you, that lies within them, and blah, 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 and all these things. And anyway, that video, when I shared it, literally within like 72 hours, it had nearly 130,000 plays. I think it's at like nearly it's over 200,000 now. And that was shot. I was a young buck, man. I was like 5 years back. And what I found was like, that opened my mind very quickly to the idea of the fact that like, it's not about the quality all of the time. Like, those things make a bit of a difference. If you can have it, why not? But it's more about the content. It's the things, the words that are said. Does it move people? Does it pull at the heartstrings? Are you speaking to the soul? And a lot of people don't speak to the soul, man. They're more caught on, oh, does my camera look good? Do I look fancy with my clothes and my swag? Rather than like, am I really speaking to the hearts of many?
Yeah.
And that's key.
Yeah, definitely.
And you learn that. It's mature. You have that. I speak about it often. We talk about like the journey of when I first started Addicted to Success. Yes, I wanted to inspire millions of people, and I had all these things in my vision. But I also, the first game plan was make enough money to leave my 9-to-5 job. And I went. You said, worked out in the desert. I left that sales job, went out and started working in the desert, working 12-hour days, 28 days straight. 132 degree Fahrenheit heat, like 46 degrees or whatever for like in Celsius for the Aussies and Canadians. I think you guys go by Celsius too, right?
Yeah, we go, yeah.
In the UK, yeah, by Celsius, right? So it was really hot and a really negative environment. I needed out of that, but I stayed in it for 9 months because it was really good money. It was like 150,000 Aussie a year. And I knew that I wanted to put more money back into my business. I wanted to put money into mentorship. I wanted to put money into traveling to different parts of the world. And, I've been blessed not only with that opportunity to do that, but also with everything else that Addicted to Success has brought now, because I committed to the 10-year vision. I've seen nearly a third of the world already.
Yeah.
So I've done more than my parents have combined. And they said that the last year. Mom's like, Joel, you've lived more of a life than your dad and I put together. And I'm like, well, I want to take you guys with me. I help them to pay some of their mortgage off. There's like things that you can do, man. Like when you open up that new bracket in your life, you get to move to better locations. You have a very different experience in life. You eat at better restaurants. You get to pay for things for your friends and take people out, and you get to give back. We built a school in Southeast Asia, with Pencils of Promise for children living in Laos. Living in poverty up in the mountains. We built a new school for them. It fits hundreds of new, kids that had nothing, you know? And so we did all this as a community, man. I'm not taking the credit. I'm saying that, like, when you follow your vision, a hell of a lot more comes into play. You can give more. When you become more, you can give more.
Yeah, definitely. It's about making yourself valuable first, so that you can provide value to others even more.
There you go.
You're that much more polished, right? So, yeah, man. I was curious. When was the moment when you, in everything you just described now, when was the moment where it actually clicked and you realized, like, damn, like I've crossed the threshold from like the 9 to 5 old life to like I'm actually stepping into the vision fully now. Like, I'm here, like I'm actually doing it now.
You know what's funny? I actually remember working up in the desert in north part of Western Australia. I was catching snakes and lizards and kangaroos. It sounds so cliche. As an Aussie, it's like, even Aussies laugh at it. They're like, what? Like Crocodile Dundee or like Steve Irwin. But I was working in the environmental team at the time. It was the only way I could work up north. I actually dropped out of high school. So I didn't have any high school papers or anything like that. No trade. The only way I was able to get in by getting a snake handling certificate to work in the environmental team. It was this crazy opportunity, which I took hold of. But I remember going out there, and I was surrounded by a lot of negativity. A lot of people that lived in that, that lifestyle their whole life, like drinking every day and the construction game, and they've lived away from their families for much of their life. A lot of them were very sour and negative about their situation. They had all the money that they could get in the world, but they just hated life. And it was starting to affect me a little bit, and I had to unplug. So I would go and sit in the Toyota Hilux in the Ute, right, the pickup, and I would listen to Think and Grow Rich audio. I listened to Think and Grow Rich, the principles of Napoleon Hill, listen to Tony Robbins. And what's funny is I remember listening even to Vishen Lakhiani. He had this speech that he did called Happiness is a New Productivity. And it's crazy to think that I would listen every day to like these speeches. And literally within a year, Vishen was asking me to partner with him in his business, to be a part of a program that he's launched. I was asked to speak at his event. 3 years later, I remember listening to Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. 3 years later, I was sitting in VaynerMedia offices with Gary Vaynerchuk doing an interview with Gary. We've done about 3 or 4 of them together now. And then, Tony Robbins, I've interviewed Tony, met Tony, and we're on set together for the movie. And then Think and Grow Rich, that audiobook I was listening to, I'm in the Think and Grow Rich movie that's literally coming out in a few days.
That's insane. Yeah.
And like the reason why they wanted me to be a part of it was they heard that I was in the Rise Up movie with Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, and they were seeing what we're up to and what my story is. And when I told them my story of Think and Grow Rich in the car, like, we have this movie Think and Grow Rich, and we really want you to be a part of it, because the movie is about how Think and Grow Rich, the book, has inspired others.
Yeah.
And it's what I'm really trying to land here for you and the listeners is that your dreams are really not that far away. Like, they are actually really close. Like, when you do the work, when you're intentional, when you're a good human being that gives from the heart and really is about creating value to also share with others. A lot of people think like, if I can become more, I can get more. But this is not about get more. This is become more, you give more. And in the process, so much more returns. And, these opportunities have been blessed upon me for whatever reason. I know that I commit, but also some of it is just like great timing and in the good hearts of others to give me the opportunity. But really, it's about getting out there in the world, becoming a person of value. And like this podcast says, know your legacy. Like, know it, like, get into it. What does it mean to know your legacy? It means to commit to it. It's to be in relationship with it. It's to live and breathe it. That's what it means to know your legacy. So find your mission and be crazy in love with it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. So now with everything you've accumulated, everything you've achieved over the years, where do you see where's Joel Brown going next? Like, there's people out there thinking, damn, you've got the life, basically. You're traveling, you've got your business. So where are you planning to go next in the next few years? Like,
well, like I said, before I said, I made enough money from the job that I made enough money from Addicted to Success. We're publishing ads on there. I had affiliate deals that were in play. I had speaking opportunities. I had started coaching. I made enough money to go in and tell my pain in the ass boss, it's costing me too much to be here. Shook his hand, left. That's it, out. Which was an incredible feeling. I had that taste of freedom, and I was like, wow. And I realized the money wasn't the thing that I was truly motivated by at the end of the day. It played its part for that point in time, but what I really wanted was the freedom. When I got the freedom, I realized that when I had the freedom, I had room to create. I had the room to connect with others more often. And that's what I was like, oh, damn, this is what I really want. Like, the money is cool and that's the vehicle and all that, but like, this is what I want. I want to create and connect more. And now I'm in a space where I feel like, you know, I talked about mature success. You mature in that success. Otherwise, you stay in the bling bling, the yachts, the watches, the fancy stuff, the swag, and all this other stuff for years to come. And if you make that just your world, you're never going to move to the next stage, which I believe is more fulfilling. I believe that giving back, being of service, playing at a higher level, challenging yourself, being around, you know, big leaders that they encourage you to strive for more so that you can, like I said, give more. That's really where it's at. And so for me, it's stepping more into the space of leadership. Now I want to go into the Fortune 500 companies and work with them on visions. I want to encourage people to bring purpose elements to their business and to their mission. I've seen it, you know, I've seen the effect that it has, you know, like it's not just about us. It's not about me. It's about we. And the next stage for me is to step more into the leadership space, which is, you know, the books about vision and leadership. I'm knee deep in John C. Maxwell's book, Ultimate Leadership, right now. And I told you that I'm writing my own book. I also have times where I jump in real quick and skim through some parts to like sharpen my mind around leadership. And I will forever be learning this until the day that I die. And then I also have my spiritual space where I read the Bible every day. I'm in prayer. I believe in God. You know, I feel called with like the purpose that he's bestowed upon me. I feel like the first 28 years, 29 years of my life, I lived in Joel's purpose. Now I feel like I'm living in God's purpose, which truly is more from a place of love, service, giving back, is being a real human being that cares. And that's really what it is, man. I look at someone like John C. Maxwell, to be honest, and see like the way that he does leadership is incredible. He has such a massive impact. He gives a lot of his money away. He makes multi-millions, but like you wouldn't know it, you know, like he's done really well. I think at the end of the day, what we've got left with is we talk about legacy. It's the legacy you leave behind. And while you're here, it's your character and the principles that you live by. What are you representing? You know, like really think about that. What are the principles that lie underneath your heart? Do you waver in times where people want something different and they want the fancy? Do you go to the popular, or do you stand by your principles and say, that's cool, but that's not me? Because I know that I'm on a mission, you know. So I'd say that that's really what I strive for more than anything now. My 10-year vision is you know, leading massive companies, organizations, and brands around the world in the direction of purpose and contribution. Because I think it's really key, absolutely key.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good, man. It sounds really good. And just from when you were, and another question came to mind when you were just explaining all that, is like, being in the position that you are, have you found yourself ever struggle between your fans asking you to do something or to head in a certain direction, say, oh, we want to see more of this, or, you know, we want to see you do this or say this or be a part of this, and for you it hasn't matched, and you're just like, no, I don't want to do that, that's not me?
No, I mean, I think Steve Jobs said, like, you've got to show people what they want. You know, it's like most people aren't visionaries, man. You can cast a 10-year visionary. You could become a visionary. That's what my book is all about, is you can become a visionary. But some people think, oh, I'm not a visionary. It's like, no, you can become it. I can teach you how to do it, right? And I think that most people aren't stepping up as leaders. They have the abilities and all that. They have it. They could really, if they put in the work, they could really be incredible leaders. But they don't. And so sometimes you need someone to come along and be like, hey, check this out. You know, and I'm the guy that says, check this out. Yeah. I feel like I'm the lighthouse of hope for so many. And I say that in a way of like, I feel like I like to shine light on things and go, hey, check this out over here. What do you think? And then it's up to them if they take it on board or not. But I think everyone wants to have that like hope, have that faith that there's something more out there for them. And that's why Addicted to Success has done so well. We shine the light on things often and show people and help them to build their faith. Faith exists when doubt's removed, right? So like the more doubt that you remove, the more you build your faith. And a lot of people aren't doing getting into the trenches and working on the game of removing doubt.
Yeah.
They want faith to accidentally fall in their lap, and it just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. No, it makes sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. So just to wrap it up, then, I mean, ask everyone this: what legacy do you want to leave behind? Like, you're 90 years old, you're looking back at your life. What message is it that you would have loved, or what impact is it that you would have loved to leave behind? So when you've gone, other people will still remember you by that one thing.
Yeah. The legacy that I wish to leave behind, that I will leave behind, is for every and anyone to believe that they have within them greatness and gifts, abilities to pursue any dream that they desire. But there's even more power in following what is true from the human heart. And I desire at the end of my life to turn around and say that I really did what I said I was going to do. And I think that the ultimate level of inspiration is to show others what's possible through your own actions. And I just want people to not wait on someone else to do it, to be the first to go, to be a trailblazer, to be leaders in their life, because leaders are the ones that make a difference in this world.
Yeah. No, definitely.
That's my legacy.
Yeah, man. That's deep. That's deep, and you're definitely on the way to making that happen, man. So I wish you all the success in the world from here on in. Thank you so much for coming on and taking out the time. I know how busy you are, and I definitely look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks for having me, mate. I appreciate you. Big love.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.